knowing your depression, knowing how it works, knowing what it looks like in your life, knowing how your space looks like in your depression, all good things to know and all good questions to ask yourself so that you can find the support that you need, whether it is turning off your phone and binge watching whatever you want, calling a friend. I don't know what your depression is going to look like or what you need, but knowing your cycle so that you can understand where you're at in the phase of your depression and what you need in that phase is very important.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
So today we're going to talk about minimalism when it relates to depression.
So, and I have some expert knowledge in mental health. I have a master's degree in clinical psychology.
She's a rock star. She's really good at what she does.
I was trying to calculate it before how many degrees and careers we have. Like,
We're like a three-headed unicorn.
I think it's over 12. And we actively use all 12 of our professions.
Yeah.
It definitely brings a lot of fun for me, at least, and I see this in your careers as well. Careers as well, that your knowledge in one field, you easily translate it into another field, and it really does enhance other backgrounds that you have.
And I would like to say that we're both kind of nerds. We're both psychology nerds.
Yeah.
And if you could be a fly on our wall, guess what? Today you're going to be a fly on our wall. You would hear the deep conversations we have. I get off the phone sometimes with her because we talk a lot. And I'm like, wow, that was really cool. I want to share that with the world. And so here we are. This is us sharing with you.
Yeah.
Welcome to our space.
So we hope you enjoy us as much as we enjoy ourselves.
Okay,
Beautiful.
So I'm just curious, how has depression showed up in your life?
Mine's pretty dark, as I think most people's are. And I would say I lean towards that functioning depression. A lot of people wouldn't know.
On the outside, you're going a million miles an hour, but the inside, you're pushing it.
I haven't in the past really been fully disclosing that I have suicidal ideations, or today I actually may have a plan. Even saying it now, I have to say it in a happy voice. So the depression has had a darker piece for me. I would say I'm not really in depression lately anymore, even though I'm going through a shift in stages of life.
You did have depression before you decided to shift, though.
Oh, for sure. There was a very cocooning phase, which I think is very good in the shift of life of what's important to me, who am I, let me gain my strength for this huge mountain I'm going to climb to move on to my next stage.
And I think you were mourning the loss of what you thought your life could have been.
Smoke and mirrors. In a way, I was very disassociated, a cognitive dissonance from what I thought my life was and what was actually happening in my life, which I think we all have a healthy dose of cognitive dissonance, give or take.
You don't have to go into great detail, but just kind of share a little bit of what was going on, that the depression was happening, coming to terms with it.
So I was just letting go of some family patterns that no longer suited me. I was letting go of very key, important, primary role in my life that was no longer suiting me. And I was definitely mourning the loss of the titles of who people were in my life.
And the hope that they could be a certain person for you.
Yeah, and the hope that maybe they would show up, but they weren't, which is okay that they're not capable of doing that. And I need to honor that in them, that this is not where they're at. The depression piece was me sitting, letting go of this stage of my life into my next stage. It was a cocooning, pulling down the cognitive dissonance, pulling down the disassociation, and seeing the horror of what my life was and what I knew was capable of it being. Getting back to my roots was very important to me. Getting back to the essence that made me who I was. I think that depression piece was very, very important. I notice, just a little tangent, I notice with my kids when they're about to move on to the next stage of their life, they get very clingy to me. Almost to the point where I'm like, do I have to hold you again? Like, I have things I need to do. But I also get clingy when I'm moving on to the next stage of my life. So pulling within, wanting to be held, wanting to be connected, and knowing that the connections in my life are safe and secure so that I can make this big push in my life. And I think that's with kids too. They want that safety and that connection so that they can developmentally push off of that, knowing that they're safe and secure to move on to the next stage of their life. My kids get really clingy to me, want to be held more, get a little more whiny, get a little more.
Don't we all though? Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
I'm internally whiny. I need to embrace this next stage.
Saying it totally was where I was at.
Right before the push, I've connected with friends. I really need to do this for myself. And they're like, cool, do it! And they'll give practical suggestions like, okay, instead of going to that space that you don't want to go for a walk or something simple like that. And I'm just like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, that's so simple. That's so beautiful.
But yeah, I did go to them for nurturing, or like to my spouse, like, I'm dealing with this. What do I do?
Play with my hair and tell me I'm pretty and feed me.
Yeah,
get back to the roots.
Give me the courage, build me up.
Yeah.
Tell me that I can handle this. Tell me that I'm stronger than this.
Face this Goliath in my life.
I did that too.
Yeah.
Totally. Leaned on friends, leaned on me as a friend, other friends.
Totally.
Okay.
I
think I might do this. I'm not sure.
Dive in, and I'm not sure what it's going to look like, and it's not going to be pretty. I'm not going to be pretty while I go through this. It's going to be really messy. But knowing, do you have my back? Can I do this with your support?
Hell yes, girl.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have. Really, I've been blessed with the best of friends and the best of support. And I mean, it speaks who I am in my nature to connect with people that way, but it also speaks to my tribe.
You built the tribe, and also your tribe's awesome.
My tribe, freaking awesome. Coming into that depression piece and cocooning myself, and with my materialistic stuff, kind of holding on to it, it really did cocoon me. I was mourning the loss of the old, and so I wanted all of my stuff around me. I wanted a lot of touch. I wanted a lot of security. And then once I was filled up in a way that depression for me
made you feel secure.
Yeah, it was a very slow phase for me, which for me, I'm a pretty high pace, go. So I appreciate wherever I'm at, and I don't push myself. Having that slow phase is a little unique-ish. I mean, I do lean into depression, but I lean more into anxiety. But it was definitely slower, reflective, ruminating thoughts, lots and lots, merry-go-round of thoughts.
I wonder if the key starting point that flipped the small little switch in your brain was you letting go of actual physical stuff.
Yeah, maybe. For me, with my health and stuff, I know research says, and we can get into it until we're blue in the face, research says if you want a healthy weight, if you want a healthy body, it's what you eat. I don't give a about that. I need to go to the gym and push stuff out. I need to get things moving, and then I can have my diet fall into place.
Yeah, you need to get those endorphins in full throttle mixing up in your brain before you're ready to use that endorphin push high to get you healthy.
Right. And so I know with me moving into new stages and phases in my life, I don't care what the research says, what people do. It doesn't matter to me. I need to do it my way. And my way is definitely cocooning, definitely holding on, definitely securing or double checking my attachments to make sure that they're secure. So I have my people to support me when I do fall, because I know I'm going to fall. I know I am, than physically getting rid of one or two of the things, and that will catapult me. And because I am a high energy person naturally, that catapults me, and most people get whiplash, I would say, around me. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that so fast? But they didn't see necessarily, even my friends, the wine, because it's very private. The depression for me, piece of it is very private. Inward. I don't have enough energy to call people. I don't have enough energy to pick up the phone. So, but once I catapult, everybody's like, whoa, you're making huge changes so fast. And I'm like, I work through this mentally already in my cocoon stage, in my depression stage. And my depression stage is not a pretty place. It's not pretty. It's not pretty, I would say. I don't think depression looks pretty on anybody. And I don't wear it well. And it doesn't look pretty. So I'm not here to say like, oh, I make it look good. I don't. I absolutely do not make depression look good.
You're not doing it right if it looks good.
Yeah. Girl, if you don't have like ice cream dripping down your face and like, I don't know, yesterday's shirt on with who knows what is on it. If you don't have that going on, are you truly depressed? I'm just kidding. You can be depressed and functioning. I'm not here to say how to make depression look, but mine is.
By all means, we are definitely not saying that.
Yeah, mine's a mess, but functioning still. Sometimes it looks very externally like I'm thriving.
Yeah. Would you relate to that analogy of you're shiny outside, you're doing all the things on the outside, but the inside you're like dead forest, you're desolate, like
dead. Maybe a few forest fires in there,
ashes in the air, forest fires burning in the background,
dead. Everything is death. Yes, that's how it feels. Like
but really, you're like, hi,
I got this. Life is good. Yeah, so
awkward smile.
So I feel like minimalism as a whole helps. My space is a reflection of what's going on. I always tell myself that. And I check my space to see how I'm doing mentally. Almost every day. It's an everyday thing for me just to look around and be like, how am I doing mentally?
Oh, that's interesting. That's
my check-in.
Your vibe check.
I'll walk through my
house. How's my house looking?
How's my house looking? How's my head doing?
Okay, that's interesting.
And so,
like, give me an example. Like, if you saw something and you're like, oh, that means this mentally.
Okay, a couple weeks ago, definitely had an emotional hangover from this pretty big week in my life. Lots of changes going on, but it was a big push in my life. And so I don't remember the last time I've had laundry on my bed. It's just something, usually it'll stay in the dryer, and then once I get it out of the dryer, I fold it, put it away. And I love my laundry system. I've really come to enjoy doing laundry because I love the smells. I love the process.
You have really good smells. Really good smells. Can you give your practical tips on smells? I
know most people won't appreciate this, but I am A-okay with parabens, A-okay with plastic.
I know when you first told me, I was like, I don't know if I could do that because it's so harmful for like what you absorb. But then I saw how much you enjoy your laundry.
I enjoy my laundry system, and I do not mind. I do not mind doing laundry any day. It brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So I use one scent for everything. I feel kind of nerdy going into that.
No, I mean, they're not. This is fun.
Okay, so I personally use, and I'm not sponsored yet by Gaines, but
we should. That would be so cool. Let's get sponsored by Gaines. That'd be awesome.
So I choose one scent that I love, and I find the beads, the scented beads that I love
that match
that scent first. I find the scented beads because scented beads are hard to find, or if they don't have a scent for every smell. And so I find the scented beads, then I find the detergent that goes with it and the dryer sheets that go with it.
They all have the same smell.
Yeah, they all have the same smell. I don't compete smells. So my house smells euphoric whenever I do laundry. I do a load almost every day. Sometimes I'm like, this isn't really dirty, but I want to wash it.
And I love this because for some reason, laundry's always been a hang up for me. It triggers a lot of my depression.
Yeah.
When you were telling me about it, I was just like, this is going to change my world, and hopefully it'll change someone else's.
I used to hate laundry, and now I love it.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to know that I have clean stuff. It's just so fun. I don't
You
know.
open your drawer, and it's like a bunch of goodies.
Yeah, and the way you really helped me with my drawer system. Everything is folded and pointed up, so I know exactly what I have in my closet. I know exactly what I have.
See everything.
It is the funnest thing to open my drawers and get dressed in the morning, because I'm like, I feel like a princess. I can see everything, and I get to pick what I want to wear.
I've always folded my clothes that way. And then there's this famous lady, Marie Kondo, that she folds the same way I do. And I was like, can you put on the subtitles? Rachel thought of this. So Marie Kondo's essentially folds everything that way, so you can see it all. So nice, because you're like, oh, I want my pink shirt with the heart. Where's that?
That one today. Yeah, I think it was a busier week for me, and my clothes were piled up on my bed, probably 2 or 3 loads, which sometimes I don't love folding it always, or I don't have the time to fold it. That week I didn't have the time to fold it, but I do love folding it too. Anyway, and so definitely had dirty dishes. Definitely had dirty dishes, which is semi-unusual for me. To have 2 days of dirty dishes, very unusual for me. That is a clear sign that I'm not doing well.
If you could put it into words, how would you say you weren't doing well? What was the thought in your mind?
What it felt like internally was sluggish, dead, death.
Worn down, maybe, and overwhelmed.
Very, very worn down, very overwhelmed. And then my house just looked maybe not like a hoarder house or chaotic to people. I don't know. I don't get to interpret how people think of me. But for me, it felt very overwhelming. There's dirty dishes. There's a pile, not just a pile, but a pile of laundry.
This is interesting. What if you didn't queue into your house? Maybe you would have still been overwhelmed and not known it.
Maybe, yeah. And it is a mental exercise that I've been doing for years, that I queue into my house. What makes me queue into my house is feng shui, over mapping your house. Oh, this is your money corner. This is your...
I'm a feng shui nerd. I really got into it.
Oh, cool. I've never tied the red bow around my toilets or had the red door. For me, I queue into my house every day. How is my money doing? How is my relationships doing? Feng shui, if you pull it up,
it's a grid, and imagine putting that grid over your home and seeing what area of my home is being neglected, so what area of my life is being neglected.
Yeah, so it's always been a great indication to me. How am I functioning with my finances? How am I functioning in my relationships? What do my relationships look like? And then, how are other people functioning in my space with my relationships? Are they getting hung up and wanting to drop, like my children, are they wanting to drop their crap in this certain spot all the time? And what
is that symbolizing?
What is that symbolizing in my life?
I love that.
In my money stuff, what is getting stuck? If it's the money corner or quadrant of feng shui in my house, what is getting stuck in my money that makes my kids want to drop their shit in that corner or that space? And what is making things get collected there?
That's really cool.
Yeah, so for me, I do walk through my house every single day and take an inventory. How is my mental health doing based on my space? And then how are my kids doing as well based on what is in their environment? And what are they doing? What are they collecting? What are they holding on to? So how can I help support them in nurturing them to help them process or let go of things or process their stuff so that they can have this functioning environment?
It's a good way to parent yourself too. You're checking in with your emotions, you're nurturing yourself, you're doing the thing a parent should do for yourself.
How do you know you're completely derailed? And for me, the environment is a great indication of what my brain is doing. Like, this is externally what my brain is doing. And okay, today it looks like we're having a depression day. And that's okay. That's okay that you're having a depression day. Do you want to fix the depression? Do you want to sit in the depression? What do you want to do with this depression?
But at least you know it's there.
But it's there. It's there. I get to ask myself, what do I want to do with this emotion?
Yeah.
And how do I nurture myself? Or ignore it? Because, you know.
Fine, put it on the shelf.
Yeah, how do I ignore it and let my dishes stack up for a little while or whatever?
There's a difference between putting something under a rug and putting it on the shelf. I think you're putting it on the shelf because, one, you acknowledge that emotion
I'm totally acknowledging it.
So the emotion's there, you're acknowledging it. You're like, okay, I'm putting it on the shelf. I see that it's there, but I will deal with it later.
And it's a big piece. And I need some time, some cognitive dissonance to process that thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to put it on the shelf. Yeah. Every freaking time I walk by it.
Not just the physical thing, but the emotional.
No, the emotional thing. Yeah. Even the emotional thing. Like I do categorize my brain. My brain, I would say, is fairly organized. My house is fairly organized. And I've learned how to organize my brain. Growing up, it was the Wild West in our home, as well as how to think. And so, like, I think that both of us have had to find our own way to organize our brains and organize our spaces. It's very different for you, I think, than it is for me, but it's very cool that you honor yours and I honor mine. I get where you're coming from because it's organized. So I walk into your brain, walk into your house, walk into your space, and see your inner world, and hopefully not step on your landmines while supporting you or whatever.
While my landmines are sitting on the shelf, I'm still processing that one.
Yeah, and it is yours to process, and it is your time, and it's never my time to take that landmine off of that shelf.
Yeah. I really love this, that reflection over your space, acknowledging the emotion. You're taking all the buried under the rugs, and you're like, okay, I see you. You're on the shelf. I see you. Mm-hmm. I will deal with you. I will process it when I'm ready, but you've been seeing. I'm not in denial.
I'm not in denial. There might be some cognitive dissonance. I need to distance myself from you so that I can process. I guess it's like a timeout in a way. I'm giving myself some time out.
We'll get back to you
on this one, but I'm going to move on, and the solution may come as I'm moving for that. And then also with my space, just going back to that, if I'm reluctant to do my dishes, if I'm reluctant to do my laundry, never happens. Just kidding.
It's no one ever.
If I'm reluctant to do something, then that's also a time for me to check in what's going on with my brain. Am I too overwhelmed? Am I packing my schedule too much? Am I avoiding something in my life that I don't want to clean up? Sometimes I'll sit there and do my dishes, not wanting to, and asking those questions to myself of what am I not wanting to face right now? What do these dishes represent?
Oh, I love that.
In my life.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
Like, remember when I was saying laundry is the bane of my existence?
Mm-hmm.
Laundry to me was representing patriarchy, feeling owned by men.
Yes. So of course you don't want to be owned by men. So of course.
And the reason it represented that was because only women do laundry. Is what I saw growing up, and all the families that were around me, it seemed only the women did laundry. And so it represented that feeling of being a second-class citizen, of internalized misogyny. I just felt like the biggest loser when I was doing laundry. I hated it. It was such a downer. I was putting myself down.
While you're doing it.
I could do laundry when I was 12, and now I'm doing it again. I haven't really progressed in my life. I'm such a loser. But I've really aired out my laundry, if you will. When you're in the busy, the doings of life, you don't really feel things.
All is right in the world. All of this stuff is just lined and color coded. And yes, there's chaos in my life. And yes, there's chaos in the world. But at least in my dresser, all is right. And the chaos is there, and it will come. But at least there's some also organization to pivot from or jump off of in the beginning of my day.
The whole world could go to pot, but my dresser looks fantastic. And so right in this moment, everything is right.
Right in this moment. And then I'm going to walk out to my destruction. But right in this moment, everything's good.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, when we were talking before about depression, did you ever get pulled out of that depression and how did letting go of things help you get out of that depression?
So yeah, there's been stages where I've been uber very suicidal depressed, and I notice in those times I would cocoon. And then once I got into minimalism, even before I got into minimalism, I would say,
did you still let go of stuff?
I still let go of things.
Maybe not physical objects, but like people or
no physical objects. I never was allowed to let go of the people. I felt like in that time.
Okay.
So it was always physical objects, and part it was like you were saying, that overstimulation of things, and this was what I had control over. I didn't feel like I had permission to let go of people at the time. This is what I had control over, so this is how I'm going to let go of the stimulation of my environment while keeping the chaos of the people who weren't being kind to me or weren't honoring my boundaries. So that was really what I would do. I'd cocoon. If I could, no one would see me. Ideally, if I couldn't, then I was high functioning depression, lipstick on.
The Jetsons, when the mom answers the phone and she's wearing the mask. That's what it felt like for me. Whenever I'm depressed, you're all tired behind the mask. The phone was a Zoom call, actually, and so she'd be like, hi, I'm on. Literally, her face was a mask. Behind the mask, she's like,
Yes. And then eventually I'd pull myself out of the funk by throwing something away. Physically throwing something away.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that connection between minimalism and depression.
Mm-hmm. For me, anyway, it works. The gratitude, I've noticed that being a big component for me, for allowing me to get rid of stuff. It got rid of the guilt. That was pretty heavy. Oh, if I get rid of this, then I'm not appreciative of the person who gave it to me, or I'm not appreciative of what it offered in my life and the value that it gave me at the moment. And so being able to sit there with it and think it, and that's the ritual I do when I'm decluttering. We'll put stuff in the back of my SUV, and then, and as I'm putting them into the bag, I'm like, thank you. And then I'll sit there for a moment and just be like, thank you for the lessons that you taught me and the space that you held for me. And thank you for serving a purpose in my life. And I really hope that you find a new home and that you go on to serve a purpose in other people's lives like you did mine, whether it was from a lesson, whether it was a lesson that I needed and held space for, or an actual event or something. But it gives me that closure to be able to get rid of it without the guilt, because I turn my heart back to gratitude.
Yeah, and I think if you think of like objects as people, imagine if you push someone out the door of your home. You're like, okay, bye. And you're literally pushing on them.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, first of all, why are you crazy? They're going to stop and want to come back in and resolve something. If you say like, thanks for coming, it was wonderful, and it felt like a natural closure, and you're like, well, thank you. Like, I appreciate whatever they brought to your space that day or your life that day. It's a totally different energy than pushing it out. When you try to push things out, they always come back. It's so annoying.
It's like a boomerang. It's amazing.
And it might not be that same exact yoga mat that you're trying to get rid of, or a random thing you're trying to get rid of, but it will come back through someone else. They're like, oh, I found another yoga mat. And you're like, I just got rid of 5. Like, There's a difference between pushing and releasing.
Yeah.
Like, when you're releasing things, it's so beautiful and like unfolding, and the lesson feels ended, complete, and packaged.
Yes.
Whereas the push is,
lock the door, hope it doesn't come back. It's just a beautiful thing and a beautiful ritual. And I learned that from you, and work with especially children, helping them process and get rid of things that aren't serving them. And again, they get to dictate what serves them or not. At the end of the day, holding that gratitude and sitting there talking about all the things how they played with that toy and it brought them so much joy, but developmentally they're over that. And the next child's going to have so much fun with it, and being grateful for what that toy developmentally did for them. And maybe not saying it in that way, just holding that space and letting them say goodbye to their things and letting them choose what they say goodbye to is really honoring and really beautiful. And I've definitely taken that approach.
Yeah, I think I've always been good at honoring people's emotions. Embracing minimalism has given me more space to honor other people's emotions. And I feel like I became very good at it. When my kids are upset, I would give them that space. It's okay to be upset. Feel that anger or feel the sadness, feel whatever it is.
After I had my second child, my first child, it was just really difficult to manage 2 kids while trying to nurse myself back to health.
And sleep.
And sleep. Literally hallucinating, because who needs sleep when you're a new mom? He was just feeling a lot of big emotions, and it makes sense that he was.
At the time he was your toddler.
Yeah, he was.
He had a fresh newborn and a toddler.
Yeah, he just turned 3. So he was just having a lot of emotions. Of course, the whole environment changed.
He has a new brother.
He has a new brother. We have all over the place that is for the new boy and not him. And so the space is changing, the environment's changing, my time allocation's changing. He was just really having a hard time, which
understandable.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so I remember you coming and visiting and Lincoln having a complete meltdown in front of our sliding glass door. I still remember the meltdown. And you did such a beautiful job. I couldn't hold that space at the time. I was just too tired, and I think I was even holding Carter at that moment. And so Lincoln would move his body a lot through that temper tantrum I'd classify it as. He was moving his body a lot. Like he'd flop on the floor and prostrate himself, and then he would crawl on top of you and smother you, get into your neck, kick you away, and making lots of noise and going through an array of emotions, which it was really actually pretty easy to classify what emotions he was going through at the time. Like, oh, okay, you're angry right now. Okay, you're sad. You're moving through your sadness. Okay. And I was just watching it.
I'm like, it's okay, you're sad. You can be sad, like feel that sadness, or
yeah,
it's okay, you're angry, feel that anger.
And you were really nurturing and holding space for him, as well as physically letting him know that you were there by like touching his back and stroking his arms and supporting. Yeah, get that out. You're allowed to be sad. Get that out. And I think that temper tantrum or that bout lasted probably a good 20 minutes. There was a lot of build up emotions in that moment because I just didn't have time to help him through those. And so for him, that was a pretty unusually long temper tantrum, but it was really beautiful to sit there and watch it on the sidelines. And I'm really grateful.
Oh, thank you.
For you to be able to hold that space for him when I couldn't, and also encouraging him to feel his emotions. And ironically, that was right after I got rid of a bunch of stuff and cleared my house. And so I think it went hand in hand where it felt like he could take up his space with his emotions.
And cry over the things he needed to let go of. They were like some baby
that we got rid of. And
I remember that little rocking lamb. Was it on?
Yeah.
He was so torn up about it, but he had never played on it for months. And
maybe even a year. He really didn't touch it.
But all of a sudden, letting go of that was a huge deal for him. I wasn't the one that chose to get rid of it. I think you were.
Yeah, ultimately I was, because I was like, oh, he hasn't touched it in so long. So he's developmentally over this.
Yeah. But I think we both acknowledged, hey, you need to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And it was beautiful to let him be sad about it and let him cry and let him work through it.
Well, I think it turned
upon him.
I think it turned into something else, mourning the loss of what his family looked like.
You probably didn't have the words to say that.
And mourning the loss of our son-mom connection. Yeah, I was changing a little. I mean, and we found our pace, and it's beautiful, mourning the change. And I think the toys leaving for him was
an outward symbol.
Yeah. And so after he went through his 20-minute bout of emotions, we were able to go onto the porch and say goodbye to all of his toys.
And then he would pet his lamb. Bye, lamb. And we're like, say bye, give it a hug.
Yeah.
And to his other toys, bye, thank you. Mm-hmm. Bye, Carp.
Yeah, and that was really cool because after after he said goodbye, he didn't want to go out on the porch again. He almost was bothered because it took me a day, of course, to get that all loaded up and out to a Goodwill or whatever. And so it took me a little minute to get it out. And it was almost like, Mom, why is this stuff still here? I said goodbye.
I'm over it. Go
over it. Let it go. Within the minute that we said goodbye, it should be gone. I don't let things rest very long. So it wasn't on our porch for more than a day or two. That was just too long after saying goodbye to it. It was.
I think this really goes hand in hand. This sorrow and goodbye to things goes really hand in hand with depression. For me, depression was a result of not saying goodbye to things, not coming to closure, and not feeling the sadness of that loss. Yeah. I didn't want to feel the sadness of the loss, so I kept it in my life, which made me feel sad.
You moved on developmentally.
Yes, just kept in my life. So I think it's beautiful. This sorrow and this letting go of things really does pair with our conversation of depression. They just go so hand in hand. And if you don't address that sorrow, then
the change of the seasons and the chapters of your life,
then depression can come stronger and keep building up until it's so in your face. Okay, I can barely move. What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want from me to let go and sorrow over and
move on? It's a beautiful thing to be in a lesson, and it's a beautiful thing to let go of that lesson too, and move to a new lesson or move to a new stage. Being able to say thank you and next, and thank you for that lesson, and the heartache and the joys and all of that, is just such a sweet thing.
What do I need to mourn? What do I need to lose?
What do I need to let go of so that I can move through my next stage?
What do I need to say next to?
Yeah. And now that I know my system, I know my brain, I know myself a lot better than I did. And there's some systematic thinking in my brain. The depression looks a little different because I know how my depression works. And it's really important to see. I was actually talking to a client about this a couple of days ago. See how your depression cycles. And so, when was the first time that you experienced depression for a long bout? With this client, I was like, let's analyze that, because this won't be the last time that you experience depression. And this, but what was the first time?
And maybe what was causing it the first time? And what were the underlying beliefs? What were the underlying feelings?
And what made you get out of it? What made you let go of it? Oh, that's interesting, because with him, the cycle that he got out of it this time was very abrupt, just like the first time he experienced depression was very abrupt. And so I was like, well, we're not done with this conversation, because knowing how you function in depression, all of us experience depression, whether it's in a level of clinical depression where you will need help, pills, medication, support, that is great. Use those tools. Knowing your depression, knowing how it works, knowing what it looks like in your life, knowing how your space looks like in your depression, all good things to know.
Yeah.
And all good questions to ask yourself so that you can find the support that you need, whether it is turning off your phone and binge watching whatever you want, or
we give you full permission.
Calling a friend. I don't know what your depression is going to look like or what you need, but knowing your cycle so that you can understand where you're at in the phase of your depression and what you need in that phase is very important.
I love that. That's really cool.
Recognizing and taking inventory of where are we in this wreckage? What needs to be ripped down? What can stay? What's full of termites? Where are we? What's burning? What's happening? That was a very, very difficult time to sit with and take that inventory. But again, jumping back to that minimalism and thank you next. And also, who are my people? What fills me with joy? I'm going to keep this this is my favorite sweater, or this is my favorite person.
I'm going to fill my life with my
I'm
tribe.
going to fill my life with my tribe. I'm going to fill my
everything else.
closet.
Thank you.
Next. Yeah.
Yeah.
In those moments when you're shifting life and going through a big developmental stage and change, getting back to the roots and getting back to finding your favorite sweater, finding those things that really bring you a lot of joy and a lot of purpose are the things that pull you through, like give you
permission to let go of the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that other thing that I don't want.
I don't want that ugly sweater, as painful as it is. Thank you.
And thanks for being in my life.
Thank you for the lessons
that
you taught me, and I'm eternally grateful. That was a heavy price to pay.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
Next.